Good morning, friends, and welcome everyone for this Heritage Lecture Series. Marcus Garvey said, "A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." And heritage is just not what we inherit from our ancestors, but what we pass on to the future generations. So, today, to reminisce on such heritage, of the departments of pharmacology and clinical pharmacology, and to pass on the things to be carried on with the future generations. We have these stalwarts from both the departments here, and this session will be moderated by the present head of pharmacology, Dr. Margaret Shanti. I hand over this session to Margaret.
Good morning. I welcome everyone. It is an immense pleasure and the pride that I welcome you all and to this heritage series, celebrations of legacy, memory, and enduring threads that connects our past to our present. Today we gather not merely to listen, but to reflect, to rediscover, and to be inspired by the rich heritage that art shaped our department. This series titled Tracing the Legacy invites us to the journey through time with some of the most valuable memories. I am deeply honored to welcome the speakers for today, Dr. Alice Kruvula, a teacher who never retires, Dr. Kalpana Ernest, who still touch many lives with love and affectionate, Dr. Denny Fleming, a trusted advisor who provides wisdom and being a role model to us, Dr. Jacob Pedicle, who has an unwavering passion for epigenetics, Dr. Binu Susan Matthew, she's a devoted worker and researcher. Each of these speakers will bring a unique lens to the theme of the legacy that through the history. I warmly welcome everyone who gathered here in person and those join us online. Once again, we welcome and our journey begin. Thank you. First speaker will be Dr. Alice Kruvula.
Good morning. I'm really happy to be here today to be able to participate in this lecture. I thank Dr. Margaret and the Pharmacology Department for inviting me to be part of this lecture. When I joined CMC as a medical student, we had glimpse of Dr. Scudder as the founder. She was moving around in wheelchair but still attended chapel service every Sunday and participated in student functions like the tree planting ceremony. We are able to witness the eminent people like Dr. Paul Brandt, Dr. Carmen, Dr. Galt, and many others who laid the foundation for this institution. The picture is Dr. Scudder opening the present OPD building with the then Chief Minister Kamaraj. The Dr. Kutumbaya is a lone Indian figure, which you see is a former principal and professor of medicine. I remember Dr. Paul Brandt mentioning how Dr. Scudder purchased 200 acres of land in Bagayam in the beginning when the institution was very small. So her colleagues questioned her about this. She replied that she believed that it would be needed for the future when the institution grows. That is vision, courage, and faith. Success story of CMC is two main attributes of Dr. Scudder: organizational ability, the transfer of ownership to a whole group of Christian groups in India, not one group, one state, the whole group in India, which gives a national characteristic of this institution. Also smooth transition to Indian administrators. Since then, institution has grown immensely, sustained by the vision, faith, and courage of the people who went before and those who carried on to become recognized as a national and international. The Department of Pharmacology also has grown, developed over the last decades. Initially, the basic science departments were managed by physicians from overseas who took part in the teaching program of various basic science departments. The first Indian head of the Department of Pharmacology was Dr. J.C. David, a PhD from UK, a retired professor from MMC, and a leading authority. He was also the principal of the college. He was the author of the book written by him and two professors from Madras. So it is called as a three-author book. That was the only book available at that time for teaching pharmacology. And Dr. Daisy David was person who used to take all the lectures from that book only. During the pharmacy period, lectures were taken by David, but practical sessions were conducted by one or two tutors who were available there. Dr. Joy Paul David was one of such tutor who later joined Sibagigi and became an eminent clinical pharmacologist. Incidentally, she was married to J.C. David's son. The practicals were mainly related to pharmacy, formulations, and prescription writing. The attendant in the department was Shigamani, who has survived all the three heads of departments. A very important milestone was the diploma pharmacy course started by Dr. J.C. David. It began in 1957, and for many years, these classes were conducted in the pharmacology department. Even when I joined, it was under pharmacology department. This is a very valuable step taken by Dr. David as it provided staff for the hospital pharmacy. After Dr. David retired, Dr. Renita Ayman, former principal of BJ Medical College, Pune, was appointed as the head of the department, a distinguished pharmacologist, able administrator, and excellent researcher. She laid the foundation of the postgraduate program in the department. Having earned a MRCP, she was also a clinical pharmacologist. The MD in pharmacology started in 1965. The first candidate was Dr. Molly Thomas. MSc, three-year MSc course also. The first batch joined pharmacology in 1965. Fanaja Paul and Sarala were the first two candidates. The PhD program, being an excellent researcher, Dr. Ayman was recognized as a university as a PhD guide, and the department became recognized for PhD studies. Dr. Christopher and Paul Stephen registered under Dr. Ayman, both completed in 1970. The laboratories and the infrastructure was developed by under Dr. Ayman. Of what we see today is Dr. Ayman's contribution. Two separate sections, one for undergraduate teaching and one for postgraduate teaching and experimental work. She ensured adequate space and facilities for research and practical work. She initiated steps to establish Animal House, which is an essential component of the pharmacology department. The PG program instituted by Dr. Ayman were well-planned, systematic allotment of topics, excellent seminars and discussions, and periodic evaluations were the norm. And I have not seen a single other department having such a postgraduate program. Having retired from government service, Dr. Ayman had good administrative experience, and we all learned from her how to plan and organize. A strict disciplinarian, she was a dedicated teacher who was focused on the development of the department. All these qualities were a full blessing for the academic growth of the department. For all of us who worked with her, she was a guide, mentor, and a very kind hearted well wisher. We all benefited from her guidance. She will forever remain in our memory as the guiding force and the cornerstone of postgraduate teaching in this pharmacology department. Dr. Paul Stephen was completed MBBS in CMC, then had his postgraduate studies in AIMS, Delhi, under Dr. Arora, who is an eminent cardiovascular pharmacologist. He was almost the king of pharmacology scene at that time. After completing his postgraduate graduation, he joined the department, completed his PhD under the guidance of Dr. Ayman, then took study leave for postdoctoral fellowship in Ohio State University, and he came back and rejoined as 1973 as HOD and worked till his retirement in 1991. During this time, so many did MD and MSc each year, 2 students, and PhD, so many PhD graduates. Dr. Paul Stephen was a popular PhD guide. One advantage of Dr. Stephen, special characteristic of Dr. Stephen, he encouraged young scholars to present papers and at the conference and publish papers. He was elected as the president of the Indian Pharmacological Society in 1987. I'm just listing some of the people. Now the list is not complete because it's time limit. MD, Dr. Chandrasekhar, Dr. Surendra Reddy, Dr. Kalpana and Dr. Jacob. PhD, myself, Molly Thomas, and post-MSc, large number of postgraduates whose I cannot say, but I would like to highlight some who have in this picture, that is Musalaya and Dhanapal, and in the left end is Leela Macharian, who is a scholar in US, and Dr. Venkatraman, the tall Venkatraman is a senior. Next to him is, next to Christopher, is Junior Venkatraman, who became the head of the department of St. John's Medical College, and so many others you can identify in this department. Geeta Shastri is sitting there with a child in her lap. Paul Stephen was an excellent teacher, and Dr. Stephen's lectures were characterized by loud voice, fluent English, and humorous anecdotes. A popular teacher with the undergraduates, he introduced seminars and quiz programs and to stimulate students. He had some clinical studies with students. One experiment was diuretic experiment. An accomplished physician, a musician, he talented musician. He played piano and a singer and was participated as choir master and in the musical programs. As a person, Dr. Paul Stephen was very friendly and considerate to all staff, taking personal interest in everyone from attender to professor. Departmental prayers were held regularly. These sessions highlighted his concern and affection for every individual member of the department. Now, two important people who may provide anchor of stability to the department are Dr. A.V. Christopher and N.B. Satyakumar from 1970 to 1993. They both participated in all the teaching sessions, practicals, and research activities. Dr. Christopher completed PhD under Dr. Ayman and Dr. Satyakumar with Dr. Paul Stephen. And Dr. Satyakumar was famous for his lectures in autonomic nervous system, which was like a story which used to engage undergraduates. And here I am highlighting Dr. Christopher and Satyakumar. Please note Shigamani was our famous attender for the 3 decades. And Chandranath was an excellent technician who used to help all of us in experimental work. The 2 people next to Shigamani are David and Prakasham, who are our animal attenders. They all were very much part of the essential component of the department. Dr. Molly Thomas became the head of the department in 1991. Before that, she was acting head when Dr. Stephen was on leave. Completed MD in 68, PhD in 1981. She was on study leave in Monash University in Australia. She was interested developing clinical pharmacology in the hospital. This was approved by the then director, Dr. LBM Joseph and Dr. Fenn. After a brief period of training in KM Hospital, she started ADR monitoring in CMC Hospital. Also, therapeutic drug monitoring was started. Subsequently, ERDU, Education of Rational Drug Use, was started, and the workshops and training sessions were conducted in collaboration with IUFAR and WHO, and many research projects were undertaken by funded by external agencies and by this department. Based on publications and research activities, Dr. Molly was awarded MRCP by Edinburgh University. A dynamic person with good social skills, an excellent teacher. Molly Thomas was vice principal for 2 terms, also in charge of the distance education. Based on her excellent teaching skills, an award was established by Alumni Association for the best teacher. Development of clinical pharmacology in CMC was a result of Dr. Molly Thomas's persistent efforts and enthusiasm. Dr. Denny Fleming joined the clinical pharmacology in 1968. It was a great event to develop the therapeutic drug monitoring under her guidance. My journey in the department, joined the department in 65. 66, I started, completed MD in 1969 and retired in 1999. PhD with Dr. Paul Stephen. Postdoctoral fellowship was in the US. I had a good opportunity to carry out research during my postdoctoral fellowship in USA during my study leave. This enabled me to do some basic research in collaboration with cardiology, neurology, and psychiatry. The facilities in the department were very minimal, not very conducive for research at that time. I must especially thank Anthony, who is in this photo, who helped me with my long duration of dog experiments for my PhD work. Anthony is in the picture, also Dhanapal and Musalaya. Now, Manoj Tyagi is highlighting because he did PhD with Dr. Stephen. He is no more. I hope you can see Nisi, identify Nisi in the background. She is also no more. Anthony is also no more. I am really thankful for the opportunity having worked here. I have been able to, this has helped me in my post-retirement phase of 25 years. I've been unable to contribute to the growth of pharmacology departments of 3 different colleges, very different from CMC. I thank God for the opportunities and thank all my colleagues for the support and the goodwill through the years, especially Dr. Kalpana. Now, I'd like to close with some appreciation about my experience. I worked in the last part of my career. I had the opportunity to work at the head of pharmacy services, a role that came during a particularly challenging period. What stood out to me was the genuine sincerity and dedication of the pharmacy staff, many of whom were our graduates from our college. While not necessarily high tech, their unwavering commitment to essential services, wards, outpatient departments, and dispensaries was truly admirable. Managing pharmacy with a high budget is not an easy job and carries high risk of losses. Yet it was handled well with remarkable efficiency and thanks to the careful planning, strong organization, and deep sense of responsibility shown by the dedicated staff, mostly D-Farm graduates. Second part is my personal experience in ICU. I was admitted in ICU last year. The sincere attitude, attention to detail, and dedication of the nurses and allied health and nurse staff were left a long-lasting impression in my mind. While I have received good care in the other institutions where I have been admitted ICU, but this experience was most satisfying and extremely gratitude to all the staff, especially Dr. Soma Rao and Dr. Trifin Selvin. My impression is that attitude and skill demonstrated truly reflect the outstanding training and values imparted at CMC. In closing, I will say I learned one lesson, which is how to maintain good fellowship with co-workers, especially from Dr. Paul Stephen, and this has helped me to have good interpersonal relationship in all the three departments which I worked outside CMC of different culture. One of my colleagues used to say, Madam has worked in Hindu, Christian, and Muslim organizations, but I have been mostly happy to maintain good relationship with colleagues and co-workers. Thank you.
Over to Dr. Kalpana, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. As we ponder on the culture and traditions that have been passed on through the years, we realize the truth in Dr. Scudder's words, what you are building is not a medical school, but the kingdom of God. She was rephrasing Ephesians 2:22, you are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. Dr. Alice has highlighted the architects and the trailblazers of this department in the first 3 decades, and I wish to continue the story. The department buildings are brilliant reminders of our rich culture. Established in 1942, the department was moved to its historic stone structure in 1962. The department has the dual honor of having been visited by Sir Alexander Fleming in February 1953, after whom it was named the Fleming Research Institute. And it was opened in 1962 by the first Union Health Minister, Dr. Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. A beautiful garden welcomes those who arrive here. The exterior appears the same, but the interior has been periodically remodeled, especially the labs to suit the changing teaching patterns and the experimental equipment. These slides show the undergraduate and postgraduate labs. Also, the museum was an additional setup in an extended building where the entire subject from history to geriatrics are displayed. The museum and the computer-assisted learning areas are seen in this picture. Research and technology advancements, discoveries in research become cures for tomorrow. Our kind-hearted attenders used to get upset with us on experiment days, and we saw tears in their eyes and in the eyes of the dogs also. Later, less number of animals of lower intelligence were sacrificed and organs were shared between basic science departments.
Research then moved to cellular and molecular level, and currently to genes underlying drug actions. The undergraduates have been the heartbeat of the department and a keystone to our culture. Teaching has always been done, keeping patient care at the center, demonstrating drug effects change from live animals to video animations. And the student record book includes an entire section on management of common clinical conditions and emergencies, which are periodically updated. The value of this portion of the book is especially appreciated when a student starts managing patients for the first time. Cost-effective prescribing and medical ethics are additions over the years. A special word of appreciation to Dr. Alice Kuruvilla, who launched problem-solving learning much before OSPI and OSCE were introduced in the curriculum, making learning more meaningful. Teaching in collaboration with other disciplines in medicine is also done for common infectious diseases. And at the end of the year, the entire syllabus is revised, making students confident before exams. Interested students are involved in research programs at an early stage. From 1998 onwards, a pharmacology quiz program was conducted over several years. Students participated as teams, and there were various types of questions, including rapid fire and interesting crossword puzzles put together by the faculty. We invited one of the retired staff as the chief guest, and the event ended with dinner with our students. This was an enjoyable time for the faculty as we worked together as a team, and a fun-based learning for students. In 2015, a prize was instituted in memory of Jeffrey Solomon after his untimely death in first clinical year. This is being awarded for the best essay written by a first clinical year student on a trending topic in pharmacology. An enduring quality of the faculty has been to identify students who needed special attention in studies. Faculty are known to coach even after hours and helped with personal problems also. Once I received a phone call from overseas, one of our students, and she reminded me of something I had completely forgotten. Ma'am, when I was not eligible to take my pharm final exam due to my poor performance, you took it as a challenge. You visited me daily in the hostel and taught me, and I passed. Another one, ma'am, I still keep your lectures safe to this day. This kind of nurturing still continues, a part of the heritage of this department. Postgraduates, they come and they leave mostly, but they carry a piece of this legacy into the world. Long before postgraduates for MD joined, the department hosted students for MSc and PhD. After a long lapse from 1998 onwards, there has been regular admission of postgraduates every year with increasing interest in research. Every one of them has researched both in non-clinical and clinical areas. Some of them have joined medical institutions, and several of them are holding significant positions in multinational pharmaceutical companies. But they still remember their teachers with fondness and arrive at the department at every opportunity. And this is what they always say, the best part of my life was here in CMC. Our hands have extended. When minds come together from different fields, the best solutions are found. The faculty have been teaching pharmacology to nearly 20 allied health courses, including all levels of nursing and postgraduates of other disciplines. Whenever there has been need in other areas in CMC, faculty have extended their help to departments like pharmacy, archives, principal's office, and CME. The teaching staff have been involved in selection of drugs for pharmacy stores, prescription audits, and in compiling the hospital formulary. Monitoring adverse drug reactions in the wards have been regularly done over the years since 1980s, and the reports used to be compiled into a quarterly ADR bulletin. This work now continues as pharmacovigilance in collaboration with pharmacy and the government designate. Clinical pharmacology. This department has developed and grown alongside with interaction between both the units working together for a common goal. Dr. Denise Fleming was sponsored by Interserve and she joined us from UK in 1998. And she started the TDM services for specific drugs, which has now grown in strides with the able help of Dr. Sujit, Dr. Bindu Matthew, and Dr. Ratna Prabha. A detailed presentation will follow. Outside our borders also, work done here has had a ripple effect far and beyond. Faculty have guided students for PhD from other medical and non-medical institutions. Students from engineering colleges have reached out to us for projects. A few of us visited factories at request which manufactured organophosphorus pesticides, and after examining the workers and studying the compounds, we were able to lay down guidelines for their safety. And we train medical students to speak to inmates of the Regional Institute for Correctional Administration, which is a center for young adults with problems with substance abuse. Dr. Sujit Chandy served on the ICMR and WHO committees. He was a sprightly and talented person. His area of interest was mainly in antimicrobial resistance. After PhD from Karolinska, he headed the Department of Pharmacology from 2022 to 23, and also he was head of pharmacy from 2004 to 2013, 2017 to 2021. He was director of REACT Asia Pacific and executive director of the International Center for Antimicrobial Resistance Solutions in Denmark. Both these organizations advocate responsible antibiotic use. Medical education, innovations in teaching bridge the gap between theory and practice. This has always been our interest. Initially, changes were made within the department, borrowing ideas from universities abroad. Later, that extended to involvement with medical education unit of CMC. Now, Dr. Margaret Shanti is the head of pharmacology and also heads the medical education unit of CMC. She's the convener with the National Medical Council for 64 medical colleges, and over 500 faculty are trained yearly, CMC being the nodal center for faculty development, curriculum development, research, professional development. And Dr. Margaret received the Best Teacher Award in 2018. My privilege, my entire life has been wrapped around my alma mater, and I could not have found a better place, starting from my birth in CMC Hospital to undergraduate studies, postgraduate studies, and my career. After the retirement of Dr. Alice Kurivilla, it was my privilege to continue as head of the department from 1996 to 2015, and my areas of interest were in toxicology, adverse drug reactions, and innovations in medical training, and of course being head involving with everyone in all their ventures. At every level of experience, the team was excellent and winsome, for which I am deeply thankful. A special word of thanks to all our smart technical staff, amazing secretaries, our ever-ready attenders, without whom we could never have gone so far. Dr. Jacob Pidikale joined in 1998, and he has continued in this department. He's been an ardent researcher, author, and is known as the scientist of our department, and he will continue this chronicle. The blueprint, through stories and sacrifices of forerunners, present and past, a blueprint has been made for the future generations. Many of those who gave their lifetime to pharmacology, though interested in direct patient care, sacrificed their desires to serve in areas of crucial need, being personally concerned about every individual, cheering us to stay together, travel together, listen to each other, inspiring us to pray for each other, were remarkable in Dr. Paul Stephen. Dynamism and undying enthusiasm we saw in Dr. Molly Thomas, and I was fortunate to write her obituary in the Indian Journal of Pharmacology. Another admirable person who was the heart of the department, endowed by God with a special gift of wisdom. At any time of difficulty, we could turn to her, not just then, but even now. And with a few crisp words from her, we knew how to solve the problem. A great teacher, she was awarded the Ramnath Chopra Pharmacology Teacher of Excellence Award in 2023 by the Indian Pharmacological Society. She is our loving and lovable Dr. Alice Kuruvilla. In her own words, she calls herself a humble servant in God's vineyard. We are so honored to have her here with us. Thank you very much. We are thankful to God for this legacy and may it move on.
Thank you, ma'am. It's more on to Dr. Jacob Perikal.
My heritage talk will be partly autobiographical. I hope the audience will bear with me. I finished MD Pharmacology in 1991. From 1993 to 1995, I worked in CCMB Hyderabad. And after that, I worked in the Department of Neurosciences in this hospital. And while working at Neurosciences, I hit on the idea of epigenetics. So I decided to come back to pharmacology and do theoretical research on epigenetics. But the same year, the 1998, Manoj Tyagi also joined. And he used to tell me, come, let's do some, why don't you also come and do some laboratory experiments? So that's one reason why I got into the study of the effect of drugs on isolated smooth muscle. This shows an organ bath which is needed for these experiments. This shows a chymograph, which is not much used now because it's not so accurate and sensitive, but it was used in yesteryears. Right now, a physiograph is used. It traces electrical impulses and it's quite accurate and quite sensitive. More recent development from physiograph is the data acquisition system, or DAC, which helps in the analysis of the data. The isolated smooth muscles we studied were the human detrusor from the urinary bladder, the human myometrium from the human uterus, the goat detrusor, and the goat ureter. This slide shows the effect of a contractile agent on the contractility of the goat detrusor on the left side. When casein is added, it causes the muscle to contract and the lever goes up. That's why you get the tracing on the left-hand side. But then fascidil, which is the muscle relaxant, is added. The height comes down. The height of potassium chloride comes down, as shown in the right side. And here, the fascidil has been reversed. We're adding a reversible agent, ODQ. That's why the height on the right side has come up. We also study the effects of drugs on goat ureter contractility. As shown in this, initially there are contractions of the isolated goat ureter, but when muscle relaxant called flupirtine is added, the contractions stop in the middle. Then when a reversal agent XC991 is added, it reverses the effect of flupirtine on muscle contractility and the contractions. Development of new drugs for overactive bladder, preterm labor, and urinary colic. This work has led to 15 PubMed index papers comprising 14 original articles and 1 review article. Many MD pharmacology students did their thesis work on isolated smooth muscle. Their names are given here. Some VIT students also came and did their projects on isolated smooth muscle. Such students need the projects to get their degree. So about 6 or 7 students came, including Vishaka Tyagi, the daughter of Manoj Tyagi. The others also who worked and published in PubMed papers on isolated smooth muscle. Their names are given here. Few medical students, namely 3 girls from the batch of 2016, came and did a project on the effect of arbanafil on isolated goat ureter. And that work was published in an Indian PubMed paper, namely International Journal of Applied and Basic Medical Research. I remember when I joined, Manoj Tyagi also used to tell me, let's get a spectrophotometer. We can do wonders with that. So we got a spectrophotometer, shown here. This instrument can be used to measure levels of drugs and drug metabolites in fluids. So some PG students worked and published in this area. Their names are given here. This paper is published in the PubMed journal. 2 medical students also from the batch of 2015 worked on spectrophotometer and published in the PubMed journal. Now, all of us know that genetic factors affect the response of an individual to drugs. But in addition to that, epigenetic factors like DNA methylation and histone modification also influence the response of an individual to drugs. And I became interested in pharmacoepigenetics, which is the study of epigenetic factors affecting drug response of an individual to a drug. These factors include DNA methylation and histone modifications. I wrote 3 editions, three chapters entitled Population Pharmacoepigenomics in a book edited by Trippi Ball of the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And the title of the book was Handbook of Epigenetics. The three editions came out. This is the first page of the third edition. I also wrote two chapters on personalized pharmacoepigenomics, again for Trippi Ball, for a book entitled Personalized Pharmacoepigenetics. This personalized pharmacoepigenomics and population pharmacoepigenomics can be considered polar opposites, like North Pole and South Pole. One is going to too broad, one is going too narrow. I also worked on psychiatric epigenetics, which refers to the study of drug factors like DNA methylation and histone modifications on the development and progress of psychiatric disorders. With some collaborators in USA, I co-edited a book, Epigenetics in Psychiatry. This shows the cover of the second edition. We also co-edited a book called Neuropsychiatric Disorder in Epigenetics. This is the cover of the second edition. Epigenetic drugs like histone deacetylase inhibitors and DNA methylase transferase inhibitors have been tried to treat these disorders, but so far the data is inconclusive. But recently, a new drug, rafidemstat, lysine-specific demethylase 1 inhibitor, is showing promising results. Before I close, I'll say a few words about the Paul M. Stephen Laboratory. As has already been said before, Paul Stephen was a former professor and head. He retired in 1991. In his memory, his daughter Mekla and his son-in-law Ebenezer David, both of whom live in Boston, Massachusetts, made a generous donation in 2023. Mekla is an anesthetist and pain specialist. This donation was used to make the Paul Stephen Laboratory, which was inaugurated on Friday, the 30th of August, 2024. This slide shows on the left side a photograph of Paul Stephen, and on the right side a photograph of Mekla and her husband Ebenezer David. This slide shows the opening of the laboratory. This shows the pharmacogenomics laboratory. And Ankit Kumar played a major role in the development of the pharmacogenomics laboratory, and his 3-year stint in University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon helped him in this. In addition, there's a computer-assisted learning or CAL laboratory, which was as a part of the Paul Stephen Laboratory. Thank you.
We have Dr. Denny Fleming. Ma'am is right currently in UK. We have recorded because ma'am is the one who started the clinical pharmacology. So it is a recorded video. We will just play it.
I'd like to say thank you so much for this opportunity to share about the clinical pharmacology unit. It's not really possible in the time that we have to share about the development of the unit unless I just go straight through a timeline. But that doesn't really give you a flavor of any of the stories that lies behind the development of the unit. And so I just today like to relay a couple of stories that pertain to the very start, near the very beginning of the therapeutic drug monitoring service in the unit. When I joined in 1998, the clinical pharmacology unit was based in 3 small rooms next to P1 ward. The unit had been established, it was already there. Dr. Molly Thomas had established the unit. And what was happening was it was involved in the adverse drug reaction monitoring for the hospital. Sister Lily was involved in collecting the data. When I arrived, Dr. Molly had just retired, and Dr. Alice, who you heard from earlier, had taken on the headship of the department. The hospital unit, as I said, had not been set up to do therapeutic drug monitoring. However, Mrs. Anita, who was there, did measure a few anticonvulsants and paracetamol. These were using an old spectrophotometric method, and she needed to walk across to the Welcome building to use their spectrophotometer. So there was limited equipment. Dr. Alice's request to me was, Jenny, would you develop the work of the unit? My prayer that followed was, "This is your unit, Lord. Please guide me, help us, and develop this unit in your purpose." We began to get phone calls asking if we could assay this medicine or if we could assay that medication. And to each of these phone calls, I had to say no. And people, I'm sure, started to think, well, I don't see, what's the point of having this woman there? She can't do anything. Nothing's happening. The reason for the no was that we had some glassware, we had some pipettes, we had 36 test tubes, an old mechanical shaker, a fridge, and an oven. So over the following year, we improved the tests that were being done. We set about creating what could be a good laboratory space, and we worked on getting a core piece of equipment for therapeutic drug monitoring, which was a high-performance liquid chromatography instrument, or as we know it, HPLC. We still got phone calls, and I still had to say no. But it was during this time that I made an appointment to see Dr. George Chandy, who was then the medical superintendent. And when I went to see him, I took a shoebox with me. So I went in, and Dr. George was, as always, very welcoming and pleasant, and he asked what he could do for me. At this point, I put the shoebox onto his table. I opened the lid to reveal 36 test tubes. And hopefully, politely, I asked Dr. George if he knew what meaningful drug monitoring I could do or research could be done with 36 test tubes, a mechanical shaker, and a fridge. I would try and do it. Dr. George smiled and said, "I take your point, Denny." Also during this time, support came from Dr. George T. John and Dr. Charco, both in nephrology. They wanted to work with the measurement of the immunosuppressant mycophenolic acid or mycophenolate. Dr. Sujit, who was now coming periodically to the unit, also suggested other applications that perhaps could involve pharmacy to support the application of an HPLC. And Dr. Kalpana, who was now head of the unit and head of the department, was in favor of supporting the purchase of an HPLC. However, it's not just the purchase of one instrument. Once you start doing this, of course, you need a whole lot of supporting instruments to come in. You need micropipettes, you need fume cupboards, you need centrifuges, you need all sorts of things. And so the cost involved was significant. And at this point, I just want to stop here for a moment in the story. And I do need to thank the directorate that was there at the time. Really, they had no idea of my competency on an HPLC. And the other factor was none of us had any idea if me getting another visa would continue. And so this had to be taken into consideration. But I do want to thank them that after discussions with many people, that they decided to take the risk and they granted us permission to order the necessary equipments that we needed. And this was around 2020. Sorry, this was around 2000. In time, the HPLC was installed and it was treated with the utmost care. We started the work of transferring the anticonvulsants and the paracetamol assays and developing the assays for MPA. The second story comes just a short time later. It was graduation day and I was on the college campus. Now I need to say that when the HPLC was installed, we had put it into the very back room of our 3 rooms. This room was fully enclosed, and we felt that that would get the least amount of dust and protect the equipment. So on this graduation day, I get a frantic phone call to say that there is a fire. A very large glass window in where, yes, our very back room, where the HPLC has been sited. This glass window has blown out and smoke is pouring in to the unit. I phoned Joe. Anita phoned her husband, Jay Kumar. Joe came running from clinical biochemistry. Jay Kumar came running from the Welcome building. They both met outside the clinical pharmacology unit rooms, and they ran into the unit. They ran to the back room. They pulled out all the metal connecting tubing, and they got every section of the HPLC out. But here it was now, on a trolley, no longer looking so beautiful and definitely not looking pristine. The fire had started in some batteries that were situated behind our unit that served some of the theatres that were nearby. But with the window breaking, the 3 rooms of the unit were completely soot damaged and they could not be worked in. We were put in a nearby ward that was being refurbished, but we weren't allowed to start any assays until we returned into the unit. We washed and scrubbed everything we could lay our hands on, and we waited to return. It was many months before we could resume the work, but resume it did. Finally, patients started to come to the unit, and our first drug monitoring surprising discovery on patient data was made. But that's another story, and I need to stop here. So I want to thank you for listening. I also just wanted to say that I'm so proud of all the faculty and all the staff who I've worked with in the unit over the years. They have been dedicated. They have gone out of their way. They have treated patients as if they were family, mums, dads, aunts, uncles. They have given their best. And I wanted to finish with that the unit was built on this dedication by faculty and by staff. So thank you once again. Bye-bye from me.
Now we have a last speaker, Dr. Binu Susan Matthew.
Good morning. My task for the next 10 minutes is to speak about how far the baton has been carried after it was handed over from the giants you have just heard from. So continuing from where Denny stopped, what Denny has spoken about is 1/10 of her contribution to the development of therapeutic drug monitoring in this unit. It was time constraints. She said, I can just tell these 2 stories. So this is the beginning where the team of 4, and at the time, Dr. Kalpana was the head. Dr. Sujit subsequently joined the unit for a while. Just few lessons that we learned from Denny Fleming: how to run a clinical laboratory, how to handle equipments as HPLCs. We don't get this training with an MD during your MD program. Even today, there is no college in India that gives this training. That's something we learned from her. And the most important she taught us was no job is menial. So when we joined a unit with 4 people, there are times that we have seen Denny pushing the nitrogen cylinder across the hospital by herself. So that is one important lesson we learned from her. This unit moved from where it was in 2007, it moved to the old microbiology block, old microbiology department. And in 2022, we got an additional space in Ranipet in the 7th floor. And in the 3rd floor, we also have space for where we house our patients. The pharmacogenomics unit was established in 2024, where the old cardio unit 4 office was. Now coming to the work in the unit, in 2002, with one HPLC, one clinician needs to be mentioned, that is Dr. George Tijon. All the work with immunosuppression started with the vision of this one person, and it has actually moved on. And along the years, many drugs were assayed. So in 2025, we have 9 HPLCs and 2 LCMS, and we work with all these departments. These are the drugs that we assay currently. Just highlighting some of the work that we do. A big milestone for us was getting the LCMS in 2012 for this one drug, tacrolimus. And in 2025, we have multiple drugs assayed here. And now we are working on putting multiple drugs assayed in a single run to increase the turnover time. We use saliva and free drug as well to monitor on the LCMS. In 2015, Denny had gone for a training, for a short 2-week training to Cincinnati Hospital. This was subsequent to a request from Dr. Maya Thomas to set up inborn errors of metabolism because we had the LCMS. But we couldn't get any help from anywhere in India, and we wanted it to be set up, and she wanted that it be set up in an economical way without kits. So this 2-week training translated to setting this up, and even today this service continues. In 2017, Ratna went for a 2-week training along with Elumale, our technician, and subsequent to this service, which is used by gastro and dermatology, and is there, which is on any patient prior to starting azathioprine, goes through these tests. Even a genotyping test has now been introduced. TB drugs. That is started as a study in 2014 when people wouldn't really monitor anti-TB, but drugs. But the findings of the study was quite revealing that we need to do a TDM of anti-TB drugs for a select few group of patients. So this is a service that is there today. And the data that came from this was so rich that it is even today used in multiple international meta-analysis. TDM's role in cancer. So for a chemotherapeutic drug, 5-FU, which has its own share of side effects. Is there a way to identify patients before you start 5-FU? So the way the world goes is with genotyping. So we have we have established this phenotyping test, which is 1/5 of the cost of genotyping test. And today, since 2022, this is a routine service. Worldwide, this is done by France. It is mandatory there. In India, we are the only center doing this test. In addition, the current chemo drugs are very expensive. So our role with medical oncology is to get pharmacokinetic data with some of these recent drugs to help them, to support them to take decisions to use financially sustainable dosing regimens without compromising efficacy. Can pharmacokinetics help a surgeon? Yes. This particular test is used prior to a major hepatectomy, which helps them to decide how much of liver resection is safe for them to do. Again, we actually are the only center in India doing this, and people want to come to learn this, how to do this particular test. Alternate sampling strategies is the future of sampling. We've done work on this. This involves taking very low volumes, like 20 microliter of blood. This is probably the mode of offering TDM for mission hospitals. Can TDM change dosing practices in the hospital? It has. Antibiotics, particularly meropenem. 12 years back, there were many departments, units giving it as 30-minute bolus. We've done work and proven that you need to give it as prolonged infusion. So that is the correct practice. Then pharmacometrics, that is PKPD modeling. People have gone on training. Blessed has had an extensive training of 3 years, and metrics has started in the department. The next phase is model-informed precision dosing, where we analyze the sample and we use model to give suggestions on dosing, which is put out in the workstation. Then coming to proficiency testing in 2012, Denny was able to win this award where she got a lot of international support, but she was able to win this award, and we got a free 3-year subscription for the 2 drugs that mainly we were doing at that time, 2012. Today in 2025, most of our drugs are covered under different proficiency testing schemes. We do about 30,000 patients samples annually. Now coming to our role in the national level. Nationally, we conduct annual workshops. This is quite popular. The beginning of the year, we get phone calls, when is your workshop? And we do workshops for clinical departments. Last year, there was one which was done for pediatric nephrology. We also conduct workshops in other medical colleges because this service is not there in many medical colleges. So we do go there and conduct it for them. We have done some 2 regional conferences in association with the International Association of Therapeutic Drug Monitoring. That is a body with which we are closely associated. And that little boy in the center is a transplant patient who comes to us for monitoring. So we invited him to release the conference book. These are our international influencers who we are so proud of. And they have moved to occupy these positions currently. And many of us are members of scientific committees, and we participate in writing consensus documents with others, international experts on TDM. TDM education in India was initiated by Dr. Sumit, where all over India, online sessions are taken once in 2 months, and this still continues. We initiated a postdoc fellowship in applied pharmacokinetics. Overall, this is the services that the unit offers. This is the future that we see 20 years from now. And in clinical pharmacology, we've started working slowly on machine learning models. We hope one day, a dream is to develop our own dosing software, because all dosing softwares are expensive. So can we develop our own software? We are one department which functions fully on 3 campuses. So we make use of all reasons to get together. It may be potlucks, retreats, picnics, weddings, birthdays, name it. And today in 2025, both the sites, this is clinical pharmacology and pharmacology Bagayam. This is only the grace of God. Thank you.
I am in touch with the most of the MScs and PhDs who have finished before 2000. And I mean, I'm fortunate, but some of the names I would like to specially mention, as I could not show them on the slides. One is Dr. Louis Premkumar and his wife Somaja. They both are our MScs, and now he has finished his PhD and a professor in a university in pharmacology department in USA. He comes to India and we meet each other. The other people who are in US, Dr. George Thomas, Dr. Rajshekhar, and many of them are in the clinical research areas doing excellently well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as we conclude the memorable editions of the Heritage Lecture Series, that is, I want to thank for a moment to express my deepest thanks to everyone who are here to celebrate the legacy of the Department of Pharmacology. And we have a remarkable speakers, Dr. Alice Kurvilla, Dr. Kalpana Ernest, Dr. Denny Fleming, and Dr. Jacob Pedikel and Dr. Binu Susan Matthew. Your insight have not only just enlightened us, but also stirred the deeper appreciations of the stories that you shared, the values and the traditions that shape our heritage. Your voices have added a depth and dimensions to our understanding. And we are truly grateful for your presence and generosity in sharing your work. So to all those who are joined here and those who are watching online, thank you so much. A special thanks to the organizing committee, Directorate Office, and Communication Department and technical team. Let us carry forward the insight and inspirations we have gained of our legacy, tracing the legacy of Department of Pharmacology and Clinical Pharmacology. Thank you.